There's no way. Oh my gosh. My goodness. My bad. Bane, here you go. Let's hit it one more time.
Holy moly, Jimbaboli.
Go figure. What is going on? The sound is there now. My goodness. Kings Court, Ryan and Sacktown with you. DeMar DeRozan at the front end, introduced to the Sacramento media. How you feeling about that? I've got some thoughts that I wrote down from DeMar's press conference, and a few things really struck me. And by the way, if you are tuning in for the first time on a Tuesday, it is a Jerry Reynolds Tuesday here on the Kings Court. We are incredibly lucky and blessed to have him every Tuesday. So get your questions in the chat, and then we will follow up today with a 5 o'clock open forum show with Grant leading you into Kings basketball at 7 o'clock. The Summer League teams have been shaken up a little bit with the Kings 1, Kings 2, Kings Bay Area, Kings Sac, whatever you want to call it. So the Kings are shuffling players around, sending some down to the Bay Area to play tomorrow night and some up to play here in Sacramento. But getting back to the big news, DeMar DeRozan. You know what, Vlad? I got it right here, my brother. Look, Vlad. It's right there, dude. You know what happened, Vlad? I got my DeMar DeRozan notes on the back end from his press conference. Go figure. You guys can make fun of me all you want. That's part of being in the Kings Court. We love having fun with that. But I want to start off right off the top about DeMar before Jerry Reynolds joins us today here. One thing that immediately stuck out to me, and I wrote it down right there, Vlad. I got it on the backside of the mute note, was this: genuine. DeMar DeRozan is genuine. Does that sound like a guy that's a 6-time All-Star? Does that sound like a guy that's 3 times All-NBA? He is genuinely happy to be in Sacramento and genuinely excited to be in Sacramento. The other thing that really stuck out to me about this press conference, you have a veteran at 35 years old that's proven in the NBA. He really doesn't have a ton more to prove. Yes, a championship certainly would be nice, and he wants to be part of a winning franchise, and he wants to come, his words exactly, quote unquote, an uprising franchise. And those that did tune in to the press conference, you heard him mention the beam a few times. DeMar's looking forward to lighting that, and I'm sure he will be a part of that sooner rather than later. But getting back to my point, this guy's a student of the game still. You're getting a veteran with a rookie's mindset. He said during the press conference, I'm a huge fan of De'Aaron Fox. I've been a huge fan of his game since his college days. Also talked about watching a lot of NBA games. In fact, he said he watches every NBA game, and I don't doubt that, because when you listen to him speak, you just know, and I go back to that word, genuine. He wants to elevate this franchise. He thinks that he fits in well. In fact, DeMar made a couple of quotes that I really liked. He said, "It's a great feel. I wanted to get it done," in terms of signing with the Kings when he was here on Saturday, but also about fitting in with this team and making his teammates better. And really making it clear he's willing to do whatever it takes to take this franchise to the next step. So, again, a huge signing for Monty McNair and the team. Monty downplayed that a little bit because he said it's my job to bring in free agents, but this is a big day for Sacramento basketball. DeMar's going to be wearing that number 10. We've got some more audio from the press conference that we can play as well. If you had a chance to check out the press conference, let me know what you guys thought about that. And yeah, Mike, thank you for DeMar. Thank Jesus for DeMar. Yeah, again, a very impressive guy. I don't care if you want to wear a sweatshirt and a vest when it's 100 degrees outside. Do your thing, man. You got it going. And, passing. I want to ask Jerry Reynolds about this. Mark Jones asked the question in the press conference, passing being an underrated part of DeMar's game. And one of the guys that DeMar highlighted, by the way, was Keegan Murray. He talked about Keegan's ability to shoot the ball. And also, any of you thinking that Keegan Murray is still on the market, think again. Monty McNair talked about the core of this team, and it clearly included Keegan Murray. So I'm really excited to see what they are going to do with DeMar. There's some really good quotes from day one. Felt like Doug Christie is going to be what from day one felt wanted Doug Christie going in Fox, going in Barbosa. Dennis, what the hell are you saying? What are you saying, my man? Yes, everybody did go into full recruitment mode, but again, DeMar chose Sacramento. He talked about some of the times playing back in Arco Arena, talked about the cowbells. As I look down my quotes, one of the reasons, and you got to respect this about DeMar, and this is where I go back to him being 35 years old. This is not a guy that was looking to cash out, just get a bag, get that extra contract at the back end of his career. In fact, it's quite the opposite. When his agent was going back and forth with Sacramento and dealing with the Bulls, DeMar said, I want to come to Sacramento. I want to get a feel for what's going on in the building. I want to see the facilities. I want to basically get a taste of the culture. And he did that day, sitting with Mike Brown, sitting with Barbosa, sitting also with Doug Christie. I'm guessing that is what Dennis was trying to get at. None of those things, big surprises. But I do think that you did lose an excellent veteran in Harrison Barnes. Let's not be shy about saying that. Harrison was a consummate professional, but you got another one right here in DeMar DeRozan. So I am extremely happy with what I saw, what I heard, and the Kings aren't done by any means. I do not think they're done. What do you think the next move is going to be? We can go down that with Jerry Reynolds, but certainly I want to get Jerry's thoughts on, I want to go a step deeper with DeMar. Talk about the defensive end of the court a little bit more. What else does Jerry see that DeMar can do to help this team, elevate this team? But certainly the passing. Great job by Mark Jones pointing that out. A very underrated part of his game. And as you look at what he's done on the defensive end the past few seasons, look at 23-24. He averaged 1.1 steals. Year before that, 1.1. 2019-20 averaged 1.1. So he's fluttered right around there, about a steal a game, which is not terrible at his position. So he's excited to be in the West. I'll keep running down some of these quotes. Winning solves everything. That's nothing new. We know that, certainly. But he also said, on being here in Sacramento and what's going on in Sacramento, quote, something special. This is a guy that's played for the Spurs, played for the Bulls, played for the Raptors. He has seen it all. Very excited for DeMar DeRozan. We'll play some more of that press conference here in a little bit. Bane hopping in. Apparently, it boiled down to Miami and Sac in the end. Lakers never made a big effort. The Clippers made a huge effort. I can tell you that much. But it tells you people are taking notice of what's going on in Sacramento. And as much as you want to make fun of the Beam, if you are not from Sacramento, it has caught the attention of a lot of guys' eyes, especially NBA players. In fact, there's some that will make the argument that because of that, it's almost fired up the other teams to come in here, and it makes sure that the Kings aren't lighting the beam on them. I think it's more about how teams were playing the Kings defensively than anything else. But the beam has had a big impact on the culture, on the way that people look at Sacramento. So good job by them. Whoever came up with the beam, you think they deserve a promotion? I mean, do you just walk off? If you're the person that came up with the beam, I think you just walk it off. You never put forward another idea. You're probably not getting a better idea in your career than the beam. A multi-million-dollar move by the marketing team. Very good by them. John hopping in. Got pumped listening to the press conference. I want the season to start now. Yes, absolutely. And then on the flip side, I don't want to bring up the bad news, but Devin Carter, we've talked about, Grant and I talked about it last night as well. He's going to be undergoing left shoulder surgery. No timetable reported on his return. However, there is speculation that he will not, I will repeat, will not be ready for the start of the season. We said it last night. I'll remind you again here today until the surgery is done, until they get in there. And that's coming from a guy that had 2 hip replacements last year. Until they actually open you up, you really don't know the severity unless it's something major, which in that case, if it's something major like that, it does pose the question. Did the Kings know about it? Did they know the extent of the injury? Would that have changed who they drafted? I don't really think it would have, but let me know your opinion, certainly. And then also, get your questions in the chat for Jerry Reynolds. Best ones will go up with him when he joins us in about 10, 15 minutes. You never know when Jerry's going to pop up. You know, for if you don't know a lot about Jerry besides his basketball life and everything he has contributed both to Sacramento and the game in general, he has done some pretty damn cool things. Not only was he a great basketball player in his younger days, he was also a caddy. Did you know he was a golf caddy in Indiana? That's pretty damn cool too. So I've got a couple cities. If there's a city that you're interested in, because remember, these guys travel 41 games a year at a minimum. And you can only imagine the stories that Jerry has. We all know the infamous story that is the one in Memphis when he forgot his dress pants and had to get a pair of dress pants on the fly. And they ended up being done by Elvis's old tailor, which was kind of a cool story. But Jerry jokes about those pants being the end all be all. He wears them for everything. He's got to get his money's worth out of them. Fred, welcome to the Kings Court. Happy to have you here. It's awesome for the Kings. He will definitely make our franchise better. I just go back again. I was writing my notes down as I was watching the press conference. Genuine is the biggest thing that I can say. And at 35 years old, you don't always see that. He's going to be 35 in August. I do want to be fair. He's 34 at the moment. But he's in this to win this. He wants to make an impact in Sacramento. He wants to continue the growth of this franchise. And as a Sacramento Kings fan, not only is it rare that we land a guy like this in free agency, but it's rare that the guy chose us, that he wants to be in Sacramento, because as many of you laid out, he did have other options, more appealing cities per se, but the fit is going to be really good. It'll be interesting to see what the Kings do with the starting 5. I'm going to ask Jerry about that when he joins us here in a little bit. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think Malik Monk is going to move into the starting 5? Do you think it's going to be a Fox DeRozan Monk backcourt, front court? Really interested to see what they do. McLaughlin is now signed. Jared McLaughlin. He's going to be more of a backup guy. He's going to think about your Matthew Dellavedovas, end of the bench point guard. He's a journeyman, most recently spending time back east. But, you know, I think it's a good signing in this sense. It's an insurance policy. It's a policy that says, you know, Colby, probably not ready yet to be effective, and that's totally fine. Colby is a second-round pick, did a lot of good things in Stockton last year. In fact, he did a little bit here in Sacramento. I know his last little bit of run that he got towards the end of the season didn't go so hot, but I'm looking for that player development to continue. Appreciate it. Really appreciate that, Vlad. The flow is going to be so good, says Dennis. It should be interesting, right? Because one of the big contentions about the Kings last year was the ball stopping. Now, partially that is because of how the defense played the Kings, but also at times the Kings got a little bit too 3-point happy, right? I've talked about their 2-point numbers. They were 9th in the NBA last year in 2-point percentage, yet they were 25th in the NBA in 2-point attempts. DeMar DeRozan from the mid-range is somebody that immediately makes your team better, and it makes you a threat at all three levels of the offensive side of the court. You can score in the mid-range at any time. You could score under the hoop with Sabonis most times, and then you've got drive into the basket with Fox. You've got the three-point game, which to a degree has taken a step back. You lose Sasha Vezenkov. You don't know the status of Kevin Huerter. Is he still going to be in Sacramento? But you do have Malik Monk back. But the Kings had the problem of not having enough creators. They had a lot of finishers, not enough creators. And DeMar DeRozan can create in a number of ways, whether it's in the mid post, whether it is kicking over to the corner, whether it's getting to the hoop. You know, he might not be as high flying as he once was, but that's okay. There's a lot of good stuff going on in the NBA underneath the rim right now. We see it more than ever with guys like Jokic, or the Joker, Jokic, Sabonis, and such. So an exciting day for the Kings, for Monty McNair. DeMar DeRozan introduced to the media today. We're getting some CT Dog, our third dog in the chat. Fox, Ellis, DeMar, Murray, and Sabonis, you think is going to be the starting lineup. I don't know if Ellis is going to get the nod there. He could. And Ellis is really, with the Devin Carter news, the onus is now on Keon Ellis. There is no more buffer room. He is the guy that is going to have to fill those minutes until Devin Carter is able to come back. And hell, Devin Carter, how effective is he going to be coming off of the shoulder injury, getting into the swing of things in the NBA? I know he's an older guy, third year in college, comes from an NBA family, but that is a little bit of a different transition. The game is much faster. He'll probably need a little bit of time to get back into basketball shape, but that being an upper body injury, a little bit easier. You can keep the cardio going on the bottom half, so that is definitely good. Bane talking about what the Pistons did. The Pistons just claimed Paul Reed. I thought maybe a potential Kings target. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about Walker Kessler, and I've heard varying takes on him. I do know this. Anybody that says Walker Kessler's offensive game is limited, I think you're wrong. I think Walker Kessler has showed numerous times here in Sacramento against Sabonis, by the way, that he can play offense. He can post up. Now, outside of that, no, he's not going to be your rim runner, probably not going to play a lot on the break above the rim, but Utah is asking for a first-round pick for Walker Kessler. I don't know if that's realistic. I think there's some other guys out there still. I think there's guys on rosters that the Kings could still approach. Teams that are going to look to dump some salary, teams that maybe you're going to see that really their roster isn't panning out as nicely as they thought, teams that maybe put a lot of eggs in the free agency basket and didn't get their guy. So can the Kings find guys in places that we are not looking? That is a Monument Air special. Jerry Reynolds, he is a big fan of Bobby Portis. So who knows? Maybe the Kings can pull off some more moves. There is plenty of time left in the offseason for them to continue to improve this roster. Yes, Adam, he did. He did. The first couple meetings, he showed out against the Kings. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, DeMar DeRozan introduced as your newest Sacramento King just about an hour ago at the Golden One Center. And every Tuesday, we are incredibly lucky, very, very lucky to have the one and only, the man, the legend, Jerry Reynolds join us for Jerry Reynolds Tuesday here on the King's Court. Happy Tuesday, Jerry.
Well, it is sort of happy Tuesday because it's not 110 degrees yet. So it was actually kind of pleasant this morning. You know, I couldn't believe it. It was had a little breeze. So gotta be thankful for the little things. And of course, the big things like DeMar DeRozan, that's a big thing.
That is a very big thing. DeMar, I guess the heat doesn't bother him. He was in a vest and a sweatshirt during the press conference. So, hey, I guess it's cold in the Golden One Center right now.
Well, it's air conditioned, so at least that. But I'll bet you he'll be coming out of that vest if he's outside very long. I know that.
Yeah, no, exactly. So happy to have you here, Jerry. So DeMar comes sign and trade here to the Kings, one of the bigger quote unquote free agents that they've gotten. We know what DeMar is. What do you think he can bring to this Kings team outside of the mid-range game?
Well, I think he's gotten better with the 3-point ball too. In other words, now having said that, I think where he's pretty good already is the corner three. Well, who isn't kind of
Yeah.
thing. But I think this is a team that, especially with Domas, can get him a few of those. And but I mean, he's such a productive scorer, and that's always still what counts. I mean, it's if a guy can get 20 points on 15 shots, 14 shots, well, that's very productive. And that's the kind of guy he is because he gets to the line.
Exactly.
And as Kings fans know, we all know, as the Kings don't get to the line a lot, he will, and amazingly, he makes them at about an 80
Oh,
rate.
is that what you're supposed to do with those things, Jerry?
Yeah, they're free points, and he takes them. And I've said along, I think sometimes people are kind of missing one of the real important things he brings to the team besides his scoring and productivity and all that. But the fact that he draws fouls,
Yes.
He will get the Kings in a bonus more times and quicker than usual. Last year, I mean, how many quarters did they go and not even get in the bonus? And that makes a huge difference when you've got, especially down the stretch of games, when you can get in that bonus with 7 or 8 minutes to go in the game. And I think DeRosa's the kind of guy. He's in crunch time. He's really good.
A very good player. And to your point about being able to get teams in the penalty, that also most times allows you to set your defense, Jerry, something we didn't see nearly enough of last season.
Exactly. And I mean, that's, when it just makes defense so much easier. Obviously, if you're getting to the free throw line, you're making them, and then you get your defense set. They have to play you 5-on-5. That maybe gives you a chance to get stops, get out in the open court again. And that's how you go on runs. I think that's exactly because it's like with 3-point shooting teams, and all of a sudden you're missing them. Well, the other team goes down in transition on long rebounds, and they're making them. You're taking them out of bounds. So, but I think he makes his team better offensively for sure. I don't think he hurts the defense at all. I mean, I think he's not a top flight defender, but he brings good effort every night. And I'll tell you another thing he brings: availability.
Yes,
he's much like the guy that Harrison Barnes, pros pro that was traded, but was available every night. And this guy has been a 75 plus games a year kind of guy for
spot on
over a decade. So and especially with the Kings, they're so lucky to have guys like Domas and Keegan and Fox and those guys who will play every game they can unless they're really seriously injured. And that's not enough teams have enough of those guys.
Spot on. He's played 82 games twice in his career. Last season, 79, as you pointed out, 75 plus most seasons. He played 37.8 minutes a game last year, Jerry. Some people have some concerns about how much tread being left on the tires for DeMar turning 35 in August. Do you share those concerns?
Well, yeah, I don't think he can go on forever. I agree with him. I think he has 2 all-star type years left in him.
Okay.
He didn't. Last year is one of his best years he's ever had, and so and I think he's maybe lost a little athleticism, but he's really more. As the veterans they get sharper, figure out better ways of getting points, and then his longer range shot, his 20-footer and beyond, has gotten a lot better over the years. And so, I guess my feeling is the contract the Kings signed with him is just about right. I mean, I think they're going to get 2 quality years. In the third year, he might be starting to slow down and all that, and then you reevaluate it. But right now, this team needed to get better. They got better. The Kings are a better team today than they were a week ago.
Absolutely, they are. And they stayed within their principles, right? They don't have too many eggs in one basket. They still have some liquidity. A guy like DeMar, short of being injured, like you said, probably still has some value to a contender if it's not working out here in Sacramento with the contract he signed. But we talked about last year, the Kings not having enough creators. I put DeMar in that category of a creator. Having him on the floor, how is that going to make the game easier for Fox and Sabonis?
Well, as you said, he's a creator. He's a guy, that can beat somebody off the dribble, get in the paint. He's assisted at a nice rate over the years. And like I say, I think like Fox, he's a real fourth quarter guy, another guy they can go to. My feeling is, how he's going to score. So what will that do? Well, Fox may score a little less by having a guy like that. Demonis, I think, will score less, but I think they'll be even more productive and their points will come easier. Keegan might not, as opposed to having to get 18, 19 a game next year for the team to be, where they want to be, the 15, 16 might be just fine. Because, I mean, you're adding a 20 plus score and he'll get his 20. I mean, he's probably capable of getting 25, but I think he'll adjust his game. All the scorers will have to sacrifice a little bit.
Sure, no, absolutely. Jerry joining us here on the Kings Court. We're talking DeMar DeRozan, the newest Sacramento King. Mike has a question for you. Jerry, what's your take on the apron rules and how they could benefit the Kings?
Well, I'm not, I think it's like anything else. And I think with Monty McNair and his crew, I mean, they're pretty well prepared for that. I mean, in other words, if you're going to get into the aprons, you better have the right players under contract.
Damn
That's
right.
what it comes down to. I mean, you don't want to be paying somebody 40, 50 million a year and being in that situation and his game is going downhill. I mean, that's where you're really in trouble. But I mean, I think that, every contract they've signed, I think fits pretty darn good. And, I mean, as opposed to, the Warriors, where I understand what they did, because sometimes fans don't really understand. You can go way over the cap to sign your own free agents. And that's what they did because they had to in order to keep it together. And, but it eventually it got way more expensive than it's worth. I mean, in other words, paying an extra 160 million to go into the luxury tax when you're a championship contender is one thing, a la Celtics. It's a totally another. And if you're going to be a play-in team,
yeah, and I think too with the aprons, we got to remember. Yesterday I mentioned this: if you don't offload the Sasha contract and Davion and send two second-round picks to Toronto, this sign and trade isn't possible with DeMar. And so that's why with the new CBA, it's the premium on drafting well and player development. Just for what Jerry said, you can go way over the cap for your own free agents. So let's talk a little bit of the other side with Devin Carter. Disappointing news that it looks like he's going to have surgery that could keep him out or affecting the start of the season. Jerry, do you think this was something on the Kings' radar when they drafted him?
Well, I think that probably was. I don't know if they probably were aware of maybe the severity that. I know from just talking to some scouts around the league that I've known a long time that they mentioned, and like we talked about it before after the draft that that's one he slipped. He was viewed as maybe a top 10 guy, and he slipped, and that was one of the reasons given that they knew there were some shoulder problems, didn't know the extent, and so. As far as the Kings are concerned, I wouldn't be, as a Kings fan, I wouldn't be too concerned about it because I'm not sure how much he'd have played as a rookie. Now with Davion gone, there's certainly a spot there, but so he's probably not going to be available till January, and it really does. The only place that worries me is that he's missing out on summer league preseason. Getting some minutes, early in the season. So his rookie year is already pretty much damaged, but you hope as long as, you still got Herter, you've got You've got Malik, you've got DeMar who can play some guard, although I think small forward's clearly his best position, but then
Yeah.
Allen Fox. So you've got guys, you've got enough guards.
Yeah, and I think Keon Ellis probably fills that role, makes that blow a little bit easier with him out. But certainly, as you mentioned, Davion, that is the spot that will be missed with Devin Carter out. Do you think Summer League is just as much about confidence for these rookies as it is minutes?
Well, I think that's a great point. I mean, I think that they're expected to play well. I mean, if you struggle in summer league, don't expect you're looked at as like
Sure.
he's not likely to be an all-star. He's in summer league.
Thomas Robinson.
So generally, the good rookies will play well in summer league, and then of course you don't know where it all goes. But I always remember Tyreek Evans or Hito Turkoglu as rookies playing summer league, and clearly they were really good.
Yes.
You knew they were really good. Now you didn't know how it all play out for 10 years or whatever. Of course, Tyreek was awfully good for 4 or 5 and Hito for 10. But anyway, so yeah, that's a key. It is kind of interesting. I think this will be a very important year for Kobe Jones.
Yes, great point.
Because with Carter hurt, this will be his opportunity to probably take the Davion kind of minutes, and so he's got to produce, or certainly, I think the team would say, okay, Carter comes back, we'll give him whatever we can, see what he's got, but I think it's important here. And just one last thing on the summer league, I don't know what the fans think, but Jordan Ford plays good every time I've seen him. Sort of almost reminds me of Keon Ellis for the last 2 years. In summer league, he was good all the time. And in G League, every time I watched him, it's like, man, this guy's why can't he play in the league? And of course we found out he could. And I know with Jordan, it's tough. I mean, I understand why it's tough to get minutes, but at some point, he's pretty darn good. Make shots, make plays, and bust his hump every night. He probably needs another year in the G League, but you kind of think that he's one of those guys that given a chance one of these days, kind of like a Gabe Vincent or something like that.
Sure.
But given a chance, might carve out a niche for himself.
Sure. Well coached in college by Randy Bennett down at St. Mary's, plays physical. I had a pleasure covering him this past year in Stockton. And it's funny, Jerry, he's reserved at times as a point guard because he can score for a point guard, but sometimes he gets off of that mark. There's not usually that in between. And that's where I'd like to see him grow a little bit in his game, on his journey. But fun times for the Kings. Jerry joining us here on the Kings Court. So where do you think this DeMar DeRozan move, if the Kings do nothing else this offseason, where has it moved them into the West relative to the other teams?
I think that short of New Orleans getting a center, and that's a big if, because my guess they will. I'm just scared they're going to get Steven Adams from Houston, who's probably available now, which would be, from the Kings' perspective, is not something I'd want to see.
No.
But they don't have a center, so I think the Kings, it's hard to say when they've beaten you like they did last year, but without a center, they're just not the same. So I think the Kings have a shot at 5th. I mean, I don't think you could put them ahead of Oklahoma City, Minnesota, Dallas, or Denver. I think those 4 teams are clearly better.
Yeah.
And then, you got to see what happens with New Orleans. And then there's outliers that still worry me. Memphis.
They're a wild card.
Getting players back, and watching Zach Edey last night, looks like he's going to be able to help them. And so they were a team that was a 55, 57 win team a couple years ago when healthy, and so I mean, I know sometimes media and I'll forget them, but I haven't forgotten them.
I sure haven't either. Yeah, the Kings are the ones that are the beneficiaries of Ja Morant's struggles off the court, and certainly being hurt as well. Speaking of the Kings, there's been a lot of debate about what they need next. We've talked at length, you and I, about this. I'm sure you've talked about it with everybody else as well. And do you think the move is more of a backup center? I know Alex Len is signed. There's been a little bit of a push, or at least amongst the fans, to sign a 4 that can play some small ball 5. What is the right fit for you for this team now that you have DeMar?
For me, it is that the small, a real power forward who can play small ball 5. I mean, there's guys, of course, the guys I've always loved for years, Bobby Portis. And Naz Reid. That's kind of why I wanted him to take a chance on Jalen Smith. I don't know that he's ever going to be that caliber, but he was big and long and athletic and could shoot the 3. And, he didn't get to play much in Indiana because they had Pascal Siakam and Obi Toppin ahead of him. Pretty good
good players.
But that's the type. I mean, I kind of 4 or 5. Yeah, Bobby Portis or something really moves them into the upper echelon. Now how to, of course, Milwaukee's figured that out too. That's why they won a championship.
Yeah.
But that type of guy. I mean, I know some of the trade rumors and just the podcast I do on the King Herald. A lot of guys, fans are pretty high on the idea of John Collins.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting higher. I don't think he's ideal. Don't get me wrong, but he's a guy who, when he first came to the league, played center for the Hawks, and now he's more of a 4 but he can shoot the 3, and he's physical. Contract isn't that bad. I don't know just exactly what Utah's looking for him, but I mean, I think he kind of fits the Kings better than a Kuzma.
Sure.
Because Kuzma's really kind of Keegan Murray, an older version. Maybe
less defense.
Yeah, less defense and a little more offense, maybe. So that's the kind of thing. And if you'd have said, if Collins was your only addition, then I wouldn't be that thrilled. But once you've got DeRozan, I mean, I think a guy like that, he brings size, he brings athleticism. He's a veteran guy that's had to fit in with bigger time scorers in his career, whether certainly in Atlanta. So guys like that, I mean, not saying they're easy to get, but he's not that old, and I just think that's what they need the most. That 4 or 5 guy that and he could protect the rim a little bit.
Yeah, and a lot is made out of the rim protection. The Kings' blocks were up 24% last year from the playoff year 22-23, which is really interesting. Some of that coming onto the perimeter with De'Aaron Fox and Keon Ellis. A guy that we touched on at the beginning, Harrison Barnes. I feel very underappreciated with this fan base, or at least some fans in this fan base. What is the drop-off going to be losing Harrison Barnes? Because I think there's going to be a little bit of that. Like you said, 82 games for this team last year.
Yeah. And I mean, what a class guy. A pro, plays every night. Certainly he kind of blended into a fault. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Some of it maybe it's his fault. Some of it the team or the coaches even. He's just not the selfish kind of player that demands the ball. And so as far as I'm concerned, San Antonio's getting a class act, which Greg Popovich knows.
Absolutely.
And he'll make an impact there. It's one of those things to where people just say, "Oh, DeMar DeRozan." Well, yeah, he's who he is. He's a proven all-star, probably a Hall of Famer. But it's just not all gain. You lost something. You lost a proven veteran who could get you average 13 points on 9 shots. Very productive guy, and was a pretty good defender. Probably a better defender than DeMar, especially on bigger players. So you gained, but it's not like you just added an all-star and thank you very much. That's why I always say people talking about it's a sign and trade. It's not a free agent. It's not like Kings years ago got Vlade Divac as free agent.
Sure.
You didn't give up anything. You just got a really good play. And I always say it's kind of like losing Bogey Bogdanovic
for nothing.
Kings for nothing. You lost an asset who's been a really good player for the Hawks for money.
Yep. No doubt about that. And one of the things that with Harrison Barnes, actually, that is so underrated is basketball IQ. We've talked about the makeup of this roster and their physical abilities. Where does the basketball IQ for this Kings team need to improve this season?
Well, I think it will. It needs to. I mean, I think as far as really knowing that they got to get to the basket more, turn down maybe contested threes, be a little smarter
Yeah.
in the flow of the game kind of thing. But I do think that, you lost a very bright guy in Harrison, but DeMar's the same. He's a very bright, he's just a better offensive all around player. But so you gain there, and he's an unselfish guy. I think sometimes people say, well, he's look at all the scoring he's done, but he's never been classified as a selfish guy by anybody. And
No.
so I mean he just gets his 20 some points because he's good, And I've said before too, people saying, well, what about the 34 years? Oh, yeah, but he could probably play at least 2 more years, maybe more, but 2. And I said, my feeling is very clear. I'd rather have a 34-year-old player that's really good than a 24-year-old player that isn't very good.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like at some point, it's like, well, that 24, oh, he's young, he's going to develop. Well, you don't know that. A lot of them don't. And when they're 24, not very good, and soon they'll be 28 and not very good.
That's right. And, it doesn't take a rocket genius when you look at the amount of games DeMar's been able to play over his career per season. It screams, I take care of my body. So that's another aspect that's good for the younger guys. Harrison definitely will make the Spurs better along with Chris Paul, which we don't want to see. We don't want to see them get better anytime soon.
We don't want to see it, but it's going to happen. They're going to win 10, 12 more games, and which means it will affect the Kings, because the Kings, like some of the other better teams, are going to lose games to them that wouldn't have before. And now, the bright side in the whole thing is DeMar DeRozan is not putting on a Laker jersey or a Clipper jersey. So that brings some joy to me to know that he would, it all worked out to where he's here instead of there. And
no doubt. I'm going to name off a few names that have been very popular here in Sacramento. Now that the Kings have acquired DeMar DeRozan, are you in or are you out on these guys? First one, Kyle Kuzma.
I'm still in. I think that he's got a great contract for his level of talent, and I think he can score the ball. I mean, there's some issues there, but I think I'd still be in on him.
All right, Lauri Markkanen.
Oh, clearly in. I don't think there's a chance.
I agree.
I just don't think Danny Ainge is going to trade him. I think he's just, trying to, if somebody wants to give him 16 first-round picks and a partridge in a pear tree, he might, knowing Danny. So, if he can steal from you, he'll do that.
Okay, very good. Julius Randle.
Not as much. I think I think Julius is good, really good. He's proven that. I kind of think he might be more valuable to New York than anyone else. I think they know how to use him pretty well. Because if you're going to get Randall, you really have got to go to him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to be a focal point of your offense, and not that he wouldn't be with the Kings, but I don't think he fits the free-flowing kind of game that the Kings want to play as much.
Do you think the free-flowing part are we going to be making too much out of that now that you've got DeMar DeRozan? It feels like there's going to be a more targeted game plan, Jerry, and teams certainly have to defend the Kings differently now.
Well, I do. I tell you where I think it's going to happen. I think, it's like a lot of teams, probably the free-flowing works really nice until the last 6 minutes, as we've talked about many times. That's when you win games. On about 70% of the games come down to those last 6 minutes. And the Kings, that's what's hurt them. They don't have that extra guy. Certainly Fox, generally speaking, can go get shots. Not some nights he's not gonna make them, but and Malik, but was pretty much it. Now you got another guy that he's proven to be a terrific fourth quarter crunch guy.
Yeah, he was
Oh,
right up there with Fox for Mr. Clutch.
yeah, and he's been there for years, and like I say, because he is so good at drawing fouls. So that's where I think, as you pointed out very accurately, I think the free flowing stuff will kind of go away in the fourth, and we will make sure the guys who are shot creators and all really have the ball with in the right spots. I mean,
Certainly.
I've always said the ultimate point of that is, the old triple post offense of the Bulls. I mean,
Hmm.
they run it extremely well for 3.5 quarters. And if it was a close game, the fourth quarter, it was okay. We know where you're supposed to be, guys. Stand there and stay out of the way of,
Yep.
of this other guy who's real good, and then let him win the game for us. And
Yeah.
that's
I think that guy was number 23, right, Jerry?
number 23. Yeah,
Number
he
23.
had some pretty good ones. And of course we hated to see it there with Kobe, but it's a lot very similar that they would play a lot of the same styles. And here again, late in the game, it was Kobe ball.
Yeah,
Last second.
and teams try to. The NBA truly is sometimes a copycat league because you saw players try to go more ISO. Your Vince Carters, your Tracy McGrady's during that area. Now we're seeing the 3-point era, but now the bigs are coming back as we've discussed. So it should be
Mhm.
interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years. And speaking of the next couple of years, who are the guys that you're looking at to carry the NBA forward as we're seeing guys like LeBron, KD starting to exit the league per se?
Well, I think I mean, you have to kind of look at the younger guys, and that probably means Luka Doncic. I mean, certainly Wembanyama comes to mind. Still
Sure.
extremely young. Uh, Maybe even guys on the horizon. Cooper Flag.
Oh boy.
I mean, he looks like the real deal. Probably clear cut number one. Uh, Zion should be one of those guys. But I mean, I'd say you're looking at the top guys who are 25 and under. Uh, that's why maybe a Tatum or some of the old, and Fox is kind of on the border there. Uh, so, yeah, but I think the league's in a great spot. I mean, certainly, uh, John Morant looked like he would get there, but now we don't know. And certainly Booker and Durant, they've kind of, I mean, it doesn't take away how good they are, but they're certainly not going to be the face of the league
No.
in 10 years or 7 or 8 years. So you have to kind of think of in that terms. And, Steph Curry, how long's he got? I mean, I think he's a little bit like DeMar. He's probably got 2 more good years at best of
Hmm.
star type years.
Yeah, he looked good last year. I know he changed
Yeah.
things up a little bit, but with his training style and some of the Kings guys, De'Aaron trained with him. I know Davion trained with his shooting coach. So Steph always brings it. Did you hear he was playing in Folsom in a pickup game about a month ago? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some highlights of that. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Jay Will. When he was here, he'd run around and play about see anybody playing pickup ball, and he'd stop and want to play.
Yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's great. I mean, that's true love of the game, and it shows their egos aren't big. And of course, Steph has always been, just a down to earth guy. I mean, I think just growing up, around the league and with his dad, who was an extremely good player. Yeah, just yeah, it'd be sad. It really will be sad to see Steph because he's changed the game. I think he's
Yes.
one of the probably 10 most influential players in the history of the game as far as really, changing how it's played.
I
And
think you could argue he changed two positions, and
Mhm.
one of them without playing it at the center position.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he really basically by being so good at what he did, and other teams trying to copy that, it kind of took away the low post power guy.
Yep.
Dump it inside and try to score. I'm like you though. I think some of it's coming back
Yep.
because I think the idea that teams I think just got to shooting too many threes and it wasn't as productive.
Yeah, and hey, we're on the front lines of that argument. I'll grassroots it. I'll grassroot it, Jerry. I'll go knocking on facilities, holding signs, doing whatever we need to do to bring the bigs back.
Well, yeah, I just like I say, I like to see the three like anybody, but I think 30 is plenty. 50 is way too many. I mean,
yeah,
I just think it's a diminishing returns at some point. It's like even the teams that win with a lot of threes, like Boston and the Warriors did, but they also were terrific at going to the basket.
Yes,
the basket and getting to the line, and I think if you're going to shoot a lot of threes, you've still got to make sure you get to the line. And I think that's one of the things we just talked about. Is like Kings weren't very good at that last year, and it hurt them.
In shooting so many threes, as you said many times, it's long rebounds. You're taking rebounding opportunities away from your forwards, your big second chance points. That plays into that entire scenario as well.
Yeah, it's really one of those kind of missed things. I think people watch, box out. Well, who are you going to box out on a 30-foot shot?
Exactly.
The bigs inside are trying to, but the ball's going to bounce over their head anyway. So it's a reaction rebound. It's, and then like you say, and if they get it, you don't, they got numbers heading the other way. Not much you can do about it.
Yeah, it feels like the court's getting smaller and smaller every single year. We're going to bring BJ in. He's got a question for you today, Jerry. Welcome in, BJ.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good, BJ.
BJ, bad time to lose your connection. This could be a Verizon commercial. We'll see if he can get that straightened out.
Need BJ back. What's going on?
BJ, my man, you come on with Jerry and the phone freezes up. We actually had a caller fall asleep the other day when we brought him up. Yeah, he was taking a little nappy poo. We had to wake him up.
Yeah, I don't say we probably have the ability to put people to sleep. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a fair point, Jerry. It's a fair point. All right, let's try BJ one more time. Welcome in, BJ.
I'm so sorry. I'm so nervous that my Wi-Fi went out. No, actually, I'm running errands. I'm honored to be able to say hi to you, sir, and to ask you a question. I think you're a living legend. I love basketball, and I love your heart and your love for the fans, the game of basketball, first off, and the approach. And so I was out running around. I'm here at Costco, getting ready to go home. Got my watermelon, my blueberries, and some
you're ready then.
Some water.
You're ready.
I'm ready to go home and wait for the 8:00 show. But I was curious if you could speak to something that a lot of people don't talk about. You hear that we need a culture, we need an identity, we need this, we need that. And I would like for you to speak on, in your living legend way, about the importance of the intangibles and the approach and the mindset of how you approach a game, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, but particularly the Kings. And what will DeMar DeRozan, I believe, he's going to bring an incredible mindset in an older gentleman, and I'm hoping some of the younger guys will emulate, and that mindset will bleed into these younger guys. And I think Keegan Murray already has a good mindset. I think Fox does sometimes. I know Sabonis wants to win. But I think they can all learn from someone like this who plays good defense. I think he's underrated, but he's an incredible teammate, kind of like Harrison Barnes. I'm going to miss Harrison Barnes. I thought he was incredible. I thought he was a key piece, a quiet, stoic, humble man, and grateful. Can you speak to the importance of intangibles? Everybody can shoot. Everybody can jump. Not everybody plays defense. Not everybody shows up with a good attitude. Could you speak on that, sir?
Well, yeah, I think you hit on it. I mean, I think you don't win, without winning culture. Now, what comes first, the culture or the winning? I think, quite honestly, it's probably the winning.
For sure.
Until you can't have a winning culture without winning. And there's teams that probably got along well and liked one another well enough, but they weren't good enough. But I mean, once you have the talent, and I think the Kings do to win, and maybe not championships, I wouldn't say that, but and a guy like DeMar, who's been an outstanding teammate, he's replacing another outstanding teammate, as you just pointed out. And so I think the culture was good as it was, and I think it just got better. Uh,
Yes.
to be honest, I mean, I just think because your culture pretty much is the same, but now you got a more talented player, and so and when you really get down to it, this is a talent league, and
Right.
the Kings now have acquired, their talent base, the key guys. You can match them up with most of the teams in the league. There's still some that they don't match up with probably very well, but yeah, that's. I mean, I like what Brown has done. I think he's done a good job. I mean, I think the thing where you spot it in my mind is when you get. I always say it's about everybody sacrificing something. You know,
Mm.
you're going to be a good team. I mean, you got to have the quality players. You got to have big time talent, but each one has to be willing to give up something. I mean, go back to the ultimate example, Michael Jordan. I can remember early in his career, he'd get 35, 37 a game. Nobody could guard him, but the team would win 40. And Phil
Exactly.
Jackson was able to convince him that he would be better and the team would be better if he scored less. And of course, he did. And of course, he'd score more down the stretch of games when it counted. But he made sure his teammates were a little more involved, and of course, he got on them all the time. But anyway, but I think that's in a nutshell. The talent. You got to have the talent, and if everybody buys in, everybody
Yes.
buys in, and then probably on the other negative side, if somebody doesn't, move them on.
I agree. I
I mean,
agree. I agree 100% with that. On the moving on, this train's going this way, and you either get on board and go this way, or you get off and we trade for you if you're have any trade value. A lot of body language for me. Another thing before I forget, sir. There's another young man that comes on here, much younger than me. He's more business minded. He knows a little bit about basketball. I thought at first he was a Laker fan and maybe a quasi Warrior guy, but then he came on and he had a background of the Kings logo, so he is a Kings guy. But he has yet to see Larry Bird play. Speak on the importance and the underrating of how Larry Bird played defense. Everybody knows Larry Bird can shoot the ball, but that's a system where everybody bought in. Not everybody was incredible, but together the synergy of that's the meaning of synergy. Your energy with other people's energy to make the synergy, and that brings a culture in defense. Was Larry Bird an underrated defender?
oh,
Great
absolutely.
question, BJ.
That's a great question, BJ. Yeah, he was. I mean, he was a great team defender. Magic was too. Individually, they weren't great because they had so many other responsibilities. But team wise, they had the great instincts for the game. Could always knew where to help out, and when to double, how to double, where to double, and certainly even knew their weaknesses. So yeah, that was the key. I mean, of course, you can go through the years with. A lot of the great players really weren't great individual defenders, but were outstanding team defenders. And if they weren't, then they probably wouldn't have been as great as they were. Now, I mean, then you have the Jordans and Kobe's, quite honestly, who were just absolutely brilliant individual defenders as well. So that takes them either to a higher level. LeBron was early; he hasn't been the last few years. He's a great team defender. Quite the
a lot
individual.
of lot of miles there.
A lot of miles, and so you make adjustments. But those are great questions, man. BJ's on top of it.
Yeah, very good job by BJ. Jerry, I got one last question for you. I've saved this one. And De'Aaron Fox, very happy to have DeMar DeRozan. They seem to be excited to play together. One of De'Aaron's reasons for wanting to wait on an extension was to see how this roster would shape up. Does this feel like the move that puts De'Aaron Fox on the spot to take that next step for this team?
Well, it could be. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that he sees it as a good move for the franchise. Now, I think what De'Aaron's doing and his agent is pretty wise. I think he's just saying, look, I'm betting on myself. If I wait, then and things go well, I'll be worth more. And it's easier for a guy like De'Aaron to do that because he's wealthy already.
Sure.
And
That's
so,
putting it nicely, Jerry.
yeah, it's kind of like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. It's easy for them to go ahead and do that. And so I think that's more of what it is. And it makes perfect sense. If I were De'Aaron's agent or his father, I would tell him to do exactly what he's doing. Bet on yourself and see what happens with the team. There really isn't a downside for you to do that.
Sure, absolutely. It's a great point, and it's going to be a fun time. I know Kings fans are very excited about DeMar DeRozan, and I don't think the Kings are done. So we'll see if they make any moves in between now and next Tuesday when we talk again, buddy.
Yeah, well, let's hope. Man, that'd be fun to talk about another one. So,
yeah.
I'm kind of counting on you to get it done. Right?
All right. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. I'll tell Monty I can caddy for you. I know a caddy that one time in Indiana, so we can have a good chat on the links.
Yeah, well, I mean, Monty's done a great job, and I think this was a huge one. I know he's worked hard, and he knows, like we do, that they'd like to get more size.
Yes.
But it's like anything to get the good guys like the DeRozans of the world. I mean, they don't come easy.
No.
You have to put something out there and that the other team wants. I still get frustrated a little bit. Like on my podcast with the Kings Herald, where fans really wonderful fans, but think you could just we'll trade Kevin Huerter in 2 seconds and we'll go take so and so. Well, yeah. If they wanted to do that,
right?
But when you look at their roster, you think, well, there's no reason they would do that.
Yeah, Jerry, I had some trade requests that come into my DMs, like, what do you think about this idea? And one of them was Chris Duarte, and I think like 3 first-round picks for Lauri Markkanen. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, since Utah really has no need for Duarte, of course, and they've got about 10 first-round picks stacked up the next few years anyway.
Yes.
And so, and I still think Danny Ainge sees Markkanen as his centerpiece, really, going forward. And so, I mean, I think the only question with Markkanen is just like Brandon Ingram, availability.
Sure, that has been a question.
Guys, and I think that's a concern, because do you want to pay $200 million to a guy who their career so far has averaged about 50 games?
Yeah, and I guess on the flip side of that, do players argue about the rest management hurting that part of their argument when it comes to negotiations?
Well, I think the only thing there is that now with the league certainly understand that's why they have the 65 game kind of rule, is that if you're available to play. Now, serious injuries are serious injuries. It's like Carter going through a surgery. Well, we understand, but the days of flu-like symptoms, lower back spasms, or upset stomach, things like that. Well, those things always, they've always been there, but through the years, the real players played. Everybody's hurt and
the flu game, Jordan.
Everybody's sore and banged up, and the Harrison Barneses and the Domas Sabonis, those guys, they trot out there.
Damn right.
And that's as opposed to, I think, we don't want to say too many here, but always seem to find ways to miss a lot of games.
Well, and some of those teams don't have those guys. I think it puts a different precedent in the locker room when you've got it from the top down with a guy like Domas that's got a broken finger, yet he misses one game and he treks through the regular season with the rest of it. You better be hurt if you're going to miss the game.
Yeah, you look at the top. The Celtics. Porzingis hurt all the time, but their key guys, Brown and Tatum, they play.
Yes.
And then, of course, Drew Holiday has always been out there every game. He could drag himself out there, and White, those 4 guys, Horford. So, they already had guys who they knew were going to probably be good for 70 to 80 games a year. And then Porzingis, even if he only played 50, he'd help them, and which he did.
He did.
So, they had that bonus that most teams don't, to where you already got those 4 guys that are outstanding and you can count on them every night.
Very true. And Porzingis, to his credit, I mean, he had an injury that doctors said that they had never seen actually in their careers. They'd read about it, but never seen it. And he was still out there trying to give it a go in that clinching
Yeah,
game.
yeah, I think that's a great point there too. And I'm convinced that, say, a year or two ago, he wouldn't have been out there.
No, yeah.
I think the Celtic, as BJ was talking about, the Celtic culture, here these guys are busting their humps. He sees that. They're playing hurt. I got to find a way to get out there.
Damn right.
I got to get out. And
Exactly.
he did. So all to his credit, I think, a guy, when injuries are injuries and some you can't play with, but I mean, that's kind of the difference. You hit on it. I mean, there's a guy who played, he was hurt and he tried to play, and that in years past he wouldn't have.
Damn right. So where can everybody find your podcast, Jerry? I know you mentioned it a couple times if they want some more Mr. Reynolds.
I think it's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube.
There you go.
I think even Google. I think you can Google.
Google.
Herald, I think.
Good old Google. Yeah, it's up there. Just go to the King's Herald. And
it's a lot of fun. But it's it's a podcast. It's not like this. It's not this glorious.
Oh, Jerry, it's the King's Court. It's Grant's channel. Of course, it can't be that glorious.
Well, no, it's a lot of fun, and I'll be looking now. I'm counting on next week. Let's have something important to talk about.
Absolutely.
Summer league. Summer league. It's it's getting tough for me at my age to get excited about it. I like to watch the rookies. Just to get an idea. Are they going to be able to play? Get some idea if they could be something. But other than that,
I hear you. You got the Olympics at least this year.
So part of that, and of course all the Olympics. I mean, I'm a big track and field fan.
I love track and field. What's your favorite event?
400.
Love 400.
I mean, that's the balls out one, and so. Of course, I think the 400-meter hurdles has gotten a lot more popular due to some of the young lady that's just so great. But I like it all. I mean, it's not a big fan of the 10,000 meters, that sort of thing.
The longer races,
real long ones. I mean, but anyway.
Very cool. I will work on my end of the bargain.
Okay.
We'll try to get next week another move to talk about. You go enjoy some biscuits and gravy, get your walks in, stay out of the heat. And I say this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you as always for joining us.
Well, enjoyed it as always. And thank BJ for coming on. He really had some good questions. Really appreciated that.
Absolutely.
Can't always answer them, but I really appreciate the good ones. Anyway.
Very good, Jerry. Thank you so much again.
All right, see you guys. Take care.
All right. That is the one and only Jerry Reynolds joining us here on the King's Court. What a great and fun conversation. Alex saying gymnastics. I have a hard time getting behind the gymnastics. It just, I don't know. It doesn't do it for me. But I'm kind of weird like that. I'm that guy that I find the little funny things actually fun to watch. So like the speed walking, it's kind of funny. Come on, let's be honest about it. It's kind of a weird movement, kind of a weird sport. I also like the high jump. Actually, in high school, I was a high jumper. So I'll watch that. Winter Olympics, the curling, always really, it kind of interests me. It's like, there's so many little things. You got to brush the ice just right. But no, the Summer Olympics will be a lot of fun. I know Sac State hosted the trials a few years back. I want to say, was it 8 years ago that they hosted the trials? I know a lot of the heat was a problem, but Oregon has a wonderful track and field facility up there. Yep. Good job, BJ. So again, the big story of the day, besides a great conversation with Jerry, as we have every week, is DeMar DeRozan gets introduced here in Sacramento. Anything that Jerry said stick out to you about the fit and about DeMar and what he's going to bring to this team? Also, the Harrison Barnes factor. I think I tried to make the point a little bit. BJ made it as well. I think we're underrating to a degree what Harrison did. I didn't want to ask Jerry about Kevin and what's going to happen there because we know the story. Kevin Herter is available and teams are interested. It becomes a question of availability, as we talked about, and also if it is somebody on the other end that the Kings are actually interested in that can make this team better. Hey, I want to remind you, we are brought to you, by the way, too. Grant, back here, 5 o'clock, open forum, going to be leading you into Kings basketball tonight, but we are brought to you by Bennett's West Side Grill in Rockland. That's their third location. You can go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. You can check out all of their menus. You can check out their other locations and also their specials. Did you know that they have family dining to go? And I'm talking some really good options off of their menu. I know Rich in San Diego is taking them up on that. Get over to their website and check that out. If you're doing an office lunch and you're bringing it in, choose Bennett's. It's the way to go. They have got some wonderful, wonderful options. In fact, I will be at Bennett's off of Howe in Fair Oaks tonight. If you're in the area, come say hi. Going to be having dinner, taking a couple meetings there, talking Kings, talking business. But again, make sure to go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Check out their happy hour. Check out their specials. I'm already torn right now. I don't know what I'm going to order because everything is so damn good. So thank you to Brian and the team over at Bennett's West Side Grill in Rockland, located in the Blue Oaks Town Center. We love our Bennett's. Getting back to the big story of today, DeMar DeRozan introduced as your newest Sacramento King. We're going to play you some more audio from that press conference. Here you go.
All right.
Hey, y'all, can you hear me?
Yep.
Monty, I'll start with you. Really, what does it mean for you to land somebody like him in your time here in Sacramento, and just maybe the importance of this moment for your tenure with the Kings?
Well, I think it's just for the organization to land somebody of DeMar's stature is just incredible. I think it speaks to what we've been building here, and especially the last couple of years. De'Aaron, Domas, Keegan, on and on down the line. Obviously Malik, re-signing here, and but also speaks to DeMar. I think somebody who is always about winning, and I think, as we've said, like winning is going to bring people in. So I think this is a great testament to that, and hopefully more and more winning to come.
And for you, DeMar, if someone had told you a month ago that you'd be sitting here in Sacramento as the newest member of the Sacramento Kings joining this franchise, would you have believed him?
No, I would not. And sometimes that's the beauty of life, honestly. You never know what's going to happen, and sometimes the greatest thing happened unexpectedly. So, be here in this position, definitely want to make the most of it.
DeMar, welcome to Sacramento. I just wonder what you kind of heard over the years about this city, Kings fans, the way they embrace the team and the players, and how it felt to walk out here the other night and receive that ovation.
I remember playing at the old arena, when they had the cowbells and all that. But
Still got 'em.
Yeah, still got them. All right.
Let's talk about that for a second. I know that I saw some comments in the chat talking about this is the hardcore place for Kings basketball. Progressive. We asked Jerry about that. He wants more of a four-ish five that can run the floor. Yeah, some rim protecting, but again, blocks were up 24% last year. So rim protecting, you don't want somebody that can only rim protect. That's going to become a problem. We've seen that for too many teams. You got to be able to do multiple things in this NBA besides just be a shot blocker. But again, 24% up last year. And DeMar comes with some length, so that's going to help out on the perimeter. Also, Keon Ellis, he's got that dog mentality, that really aggressive. I think you're going to see a mind shift change. But getting back to DeMar, talking about, and we're going to wrap up the show with this. I'm going to see what you guys say, because I think I have probably my favorite moment. What is the moment that sticks out to all of you back at the barn, back at Arco Arena? When you think Arco Arena, and let's rule out Game 7. Let's rule the Lakers series out. We get it. Bibby shot Game 5. Look, we get it. That one's ruled out. These are the hardcores, right? What moment jumps out to you back at Arco Arena? The one that comes to mind for me probably is the playoff series against the Dallas Mavericks. It was 2003. Yes, 2003, because I was at the Minnesota series too. It was the clinching game. Dallas went up, I believe, almost 20 points. And Mike Bibby just went on an absolute bender. The Kings end up coming back, wrapping up the series, a gentleman's sweep, 4-1. That, to me, was the moment at Arco Arena. And I was lucky enough to have standing room only tickets. Yes, standing room only tickets. You know why that was cool? Because you got to see everybody else in the arena react. There is nothing like it. And by the way, who can forget those concession stands at the top of Arco? How great were those? It was just your basics. It was your King's dog, the popcorn. I know Dave, he's a popcorn guy. When I was covering Stockton earlier this season, I was walking in the tunnel and I saw the room where they keep the huge bags of popcorn. I mean, the really big trash bag sizes or popcorn. So I had to send a picture out for him. Bain says Phil Jackson with earplugs with someone ringing a cowbell in his ear. Yeah, that was a really good moment. Also, the year the Kings stayed, when Vivek bought the team, I've talked about that moment. That was a fun one as well. So yeah, put your comments in the chat about Arco if you have any of them. And don't forget, Grant is going to be back tonight at 5 o'clock doing an open forum show. Make sure you're all subscribed to If You Don't Like That. That's where we host all of our pregame, halftime, postgame shows, as well as our other content, our shows with Jerry. By the way, football season right around the corner. We're getting ready to start that up. You know who usually joins us on Mondays during the football season? Sean Salisbury. So we'll see if Sean's going to be joining us again this season. But yes, be one of the 7,000 already subscribed. Get notified when we go live. And make sure you're back at 5 o'clock to support Grant. And then don't forget about the audio versions of the King's Court. Most days, I will admit, you have not gotten as many shoot-arounds the last couple weeks because things have been so damn busy in the morning with news and calls and talking to people. I will get back on those ASAP, but all of the audio from our shows goes up right there on Spotify and also on Apple Podcasts. And I believe the King's Court Twitter page is only I want to say 15 followers away from 1,000. So thank you very much for that. If you're not following that, make sure that you are there as well. We're getting some moments in. Adam, best moments were those 20-win seasons where it was sold out every night and fans went nuts for effort. Dude, I have nothing, even though the Kings were bad. They were bad. They weren't usually in the playoffs. You remember Richmond got the All-Star MVP. I have nothing but fond memories of going to Kings games at that time. And I remember back in those days, Adam, I'm going to really predate some of you. Arco Arena used to have on the concourse, forget what section it was in front of, but they had a shooting game set up where maybe $5-10, whatever. You got 3 shots, and I think you needed to make 2 out of 3, and you won like a basketball or something. Now, you always used to get to do that, but I learned a lot about the game of basketball during that time, Adam. Just what you said. A lot of great effort diving on the floor. I mean, Wayman Tisdale, Kazi, the Animal, Michael Smith, wonderful memories. Even though those teams didn't win very much, they always freaking brought it. I mean, Sac had the longest streak of sellouts for a really long time. John saying, I love the noise, the wood floors at Arco. Nothing like it. The Kings were bad. They were, but they were good times. They really were. There was just something special about that place. I was really excited for Golden One. Don't get me wrong. It's beautiful. It is the palace this team in this city has deserved, but there will never be anything like Arco Arena. I remember having this conversation. I forget where I was having it. Maybe it was on a national. It was with Jim Rome. That's what it was. And the conversation point was, would you rather be at the last game at Arco or the first game at Golden One Center? And it was so easy. There wasn't even a second thought. It's the last game at Arco. There's no doubt about it. That was the place. I wish they would have brought the 6 with them. Whatever happened to the 6? We need to do some investigating on that 6. Anyways, hey, we're going to get ready to get out today because Grant's going to be here in just a little over an hour and a half. Huge thanks. Huge thanks to Jerry Reynolds. We are incredibly lucky to have him here on Tuesdays. We had Adam's jumping back in. We had zero expectations as a fan base. We just wanted effort and heart. That's what it is. And I think when you look at what happened last year with the Kings, I think that's where it went wrong. The Boo Birds weren't because the team was losing. The Boo Birds were because the effort wasn't there. Like when you see other teams diving on the floor and you're not, right? When you're not working down low, you're just throwing up threes. I think it aggravated some of this fan base. And here's the other thing, too. A lot of this fan base, a lot of this city workers, state workers, county workers, right? It's a blue-collar mindset. They want their basketball players to be exactly the same. And from what you heard earlier today with DeMar DeRozan and certainly what you've seen from him over his career, he fits that build. So, oh, it is, Jared. Okay, they brought it for the playoff series last year. Very good. So I did not make it to playoff games because Grant and I were doing live broadcasts during the playoffs at locations. We did Bennett's and a few different restaurants around town. Thanks for picking me up there, Jared. Very, very nice of you. All right, we're going to get out. Make sure you're back tonight. Grant will be here at 5 o'clock answering all of your questions. Again, big thanks to Jerry Reynolds. Huge thanks to all of you for being here. Big day for Kings basketball. DeMar DeRozan introduced to the media and to the city. Again, huge thanks to Bennett's as well for sponsoring the show. I'll be out there at Howe and Fair Oaks tonight. Come and say hi if you are in the area. And looking forward to what's next for this Kings team. They've got a good, solid base. They have made the team better. They are not done. Still more moves to come, but a lot to be excited about. There is definitely a changing culture and a commitment to winning. Yes, I said it. A commitment to winning. Winning seems to be at the forefront of everyone's minds, from the stars of the team to the front office to the ownership at the top. So it's a great time to be a Kings fan. Make it a great rest of the day in honor of Jerry, because he was here just a little bit ago. Give me a
Holy moly, Jimbaboli.
Damn right. Hey, make it a good one. Go Kings. Light the damn beam. Court is dismissed. Until tomorrow. So long.